There comes a moment in every life, a moment so quiet it goes unnoticed by the world, yet so loud it echoes through the soul, that moment when a man stands at the edge of himself, where who he is ends and who he could be begins. It's not a moment of applause, it's not a moment of comfort, it is a moment of faith, a flicker of belief so fragile it can be crushed by a single doubt, and yet so powerful it can resurrect entire destinies. Faith not the kind you chant in a crowded room, not the kind you borrow from books or priests, but the kind that burns when no one's watching, the kind that speaks when the world is silent, the kind that stands when logic tells you to kneel. Every titan who ever lived, Carnegie, Ford, Disney, Lincoln, Edison, they all stood on this bridge, a bridge built not of wood or steel, but of vision nailed to belief and belief hardened by faith. They saw nothing around them and yet saw everything within them. Faith is not a fantasy, it is not wishful thinking, it is not some mystical cloud where your dreams float until life hands them to you on silver trays. No, faith is a discipline. It is the unseen hammer that pounds vision into reality. It is the unseen spine that holds you upright when the world tells you to fall. It is the bridge, the only bridge between what you see in your mind and what you hold in your hands. Look back at history's greats. Thomas Edison failed over 10 times trying to birth the electric light. 10,000 times any rational man would have quit. Any man bound by sight instead of vision would have turned his back on invention and returned to comfort. But Edison had faith, not in wires or glass or filaments, but in himself, in the unseen, in the dream that flickered behind his eyes. That dream was real to him, realer than failure, realer than doubt. Realer than the darkness. You ask, how do you build a future that does not yet exist? You believe in it until it becomes undeniable. You see it so clearly that the world has no choice but to bend around your vision. That's what Walt Disney did when he stood in Swampland and saw a kingdom of joy where others saw nothing but mosquitoes and mud. That's what Abraham Lincoln did when he stared into a nation divided and saw unity before one brick was laid. You want to know why most people live and die with their dreams buried 6 feet under? Because they never cross that bridge. Because they mistake realistic for wise and faith for foolishness. But the truth is, nothing real has ever been built without first defying the visible. The Wright brothers had no proof man could fly, but they had faith. Carnegie had no inheritance, but he had faith. Henry Ford was ridiculed for believing the average man could own an automobile. They told him he was insane until they were driving his dream off the lot. Faith is the bridge, and it demands a price. You must walk forward when you can't see the floor. You must plant when there is no rain. You must speak when there is no echo. You must believe with the force of every breath, every heartbeat, every cell in your being. Because life does not respond to hesitation. It responds to conviction. Listen to me. The future does not belong to the man who waits to believe. It belongs to the man who believes first and builds second. You have a vision inside you. You see it in flashes. You feel it when the world goes quiet. That life you imagine, that purpose you ache for, that greatness that haunts your sleep, it's not a delusion. It's your truth, it's your birthright, but between that vision and your reality lies only one thing, faith, not just once, not just when you feel inspired, but every day when it's hard, when it's humiliating, when nothing makes sense. That's where the builders of empires are separated from the masses, right there in the valley of not yet. Faith is what lets you walk into the unknown with your head held high. It is the compass when the map is blank, the engine when the tank is empty, the song when the crowd is silent. It is what drove Mandela to stand unbroken in prison, what pulled opera from the dirt roads of Mississippi to become a global force. What kept Churchill speaking when the world seemed lost to darkness? And what about you? What is your mountain? What is your vision? What is the thing you keep burying because life has told you it's too late, too risky, too unrealistic? Who told you that the odds determine your outcome? Who told you that the visible world is the only world? The man who waits for certainty will wait until death. But the man who walks with faith, he builds kingdoms out of shadows. You don't need guarantees. You don't need applause. You don't even need understanding. You need one thing, belief so unshakable that the world bends because of it, not before it, not during it, because of it. And here's the truth: few will tell you faith hurts. It demands everything. It will cost you friends, comfort, sleep, logic. You will doubt yourself. You will feel alone. But that's where the fire is forged. That's where the gold is purified. That's where the small fall away and the great rise. So if your dream feels distant, if your goals feel impossible, if the path ahead is covered in fog, good. That means you're standing at the bridge. And all you need now is to take the step no one else will take, the step into the unseen, the step into the storm, the step into faith. And once you do, reality has no choice but to catch up. But let me tell you something raw, something unfiltered. Faith without motion is delusion. You don't get to dream and do nothing. You don't get to ask the universe for abundance while living in the habits of scarcity. Faith is not sitting in silence, whispering mantras and waiting. Faith is a war drum. It is the thunder that signals your arrival before you even take a step. It is what wakes you at 5 a.m. when no one's watching, what drives your feet when your muscles are begging to quit. Faith is not passive. It's a decision, daily, hourly, moment to moment, to act like the future you believe in is already yours. That's the secret. You move like it's real. You speak like it's inevitable. You carry yourself like the outcome is already carved into the stone of time. That's what separates winners from wishers. That's what makes kings out of common men. You don't need approval. You need certainty, the kind that isn't given to you. It's chosen, earned, forged in the repetition of actions nobody applauds until years later they call you a visionary. People looked at Henry Ford like a madman when he said he'd build a motor car affordable for the working man. Every expert told him it couldn't be done. Engineers, economists, even his own team pushed back. But he didn't look for a second opinion. He had already decided. Faith made the decision. Logic just had to catch up. And the world eventually bowed, not because he asked it to, but because he refused to quit walking across that bridge. Brick by brick, vision by vision, setback by unshakable step forward. If you knew what was on the other side of your belief, you wouldn't hesitate. You wouldn't negotiate with excuses. You wouldn't second guess your dream. But the truth is, you don't get to see it first. That's the cost. You must feel it before it's real. You must know it before it shows up. You must act like it's already done, even when every fact says you're losing. Because reality doesn't bend for the man who doubts. It bends for the man who demands. When you look in the mirror, do you see a reflection? Or do you see a creator? Because that's the question. Faith turns mirrors into windows, and windows into doorways. It shows you not what you are, but what you are becoming, and then it dares you to act like it's already true. Do not ask life to give you faith. That's not how it works. Life gives you circumstances, pain, resistance, fog, and in return you give it faith. You give it the audacity to believe anyway, and if you do, just like those who came before your life will yield, it must, it always has, it always will. That is the law. That is the pattern written into the rise of every empire. Take a long, hard look at your life right now, not with judgment, but with vision, not as a list of circumstances, but as raw material. What you see is not what is, it's what was. It's the residue of past beliefs, past habits, past limitations, but what's coming, what's forming, that is entirely up to what you choose to believe today. Not what your bank account says, not what the news tells you, not what your past whispers in the dark. What you choose to believe now, because this present moment is clay, and you are either shaping it with intention or surrendering it to fear. There is no in-between. The boldest lives in history were not lived by people who had perfect starts. They were built by those who refused to stop building. They kept walking when it was dark. They kept swinging when the hammer was heavy. They kept believing ferociously when everyone else had already walked away. Steve Jobs once said that you can only connect the dots looking backward, but faith is connecting them forward. It's believing that the dots are already there, and walking like the path is waiting for your footsteps. You are not your failures. You are not your limitations. You are not your doubts unless you choose to be. What you are is potential personified. What you are is the unseen becoming seen if you only decide to believe, decide to move, decide to take the next step without the guarantee, and then take the next one, and the next one. And when the wind howls and your knees shake and the bridge sways beneath you, don't look down, don't ask for permission, don't wait for a sign. You are the sign. Let others play it safe. Let others ask, but what if I fail? You ask, but what if I fly? What if the world is waiting for you to believe hard enough, long enough, strong enough, to cross that invisible line where dreams begin transforming into form? This isn't hype. This is history. This is law. This is life. You can have what you see. If you believe in it more than you believe in your fear, so walk, step forward, eyes fixed on the invisible, shoulders square, heart open, feet unshaken, because faith is the bridge, and every step you take across it rewrites reality. There comes a moment in every life, a quiet but thunderous second, when you must choose who you will be, not based on evidence, but on conviction. Not based on what's around you, but on what burns within you. This is the moment where average dies and greatness is born. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause. It often comes in silence, in solitude, in that sacred place where no one's watching but your own soul. And in that moment, faith stands up, not loud but tall, and it says, we go. Not because you're ready, but because you're willing. Understand this. Readiness is a lie. No one was ready to start the revolution. No one was ready to invent flight. No one was ready to break records, to defy norms, to walk on the moon. They were willing. That's the difference. Willing to believe beyond their limits. Willing to burn the boats and never look back. Willing to walk on water if that's what it took. And that kind of willingness, that's born of faith. It's what made Thomas Edison try 10,000 times without calling it failure. It's what made Abraham Lincoln rise from personal loss and political defeat again and again until destiny surrendered and handed him the presidency. It's what made Walt Disney keep building after being told he lacked imagination. These men didn't chase certainty. They carried belief. Faith isn't comfortable. It's confrontation. It will ask you to leave the known, to exit the familiar, to walk into the fog and act like you've seen the sunrise on the other side. And the cost is everything you thought you needed for security, but the reward is a life you don't have to escape from, a purpose you can live in, a fire that cannot be extinguished because you didn't borrow it, you built it. Faith is not fragile, it's fireproof, because real faith doesn't depend on results. It creates them. When you rise each day with a vision so vivid it haunts your waking moments, and you act like it's already breathing, even when no one else sees it, that's faith. And that's the soil in which empires grow. But listen closely, the enemy of faith isn't failure, it's doubt. Doubt corrodes vision. It eats belief from the inside out, and it disguises itself cleverly as logic, as realism, as just being practical. Don't fall for it. The world doesn't bend for the practical. It bends for the relentless. Those who build their reality do so not by waiting for the stars to align, but by aligning themselves to their highest vision and moving anyway. Burn this into your spirit. Your current situation is not your final destination. It's a test, a challenge, a proving ground for your belief. You say you want more, then believe more, move more, rise earlier. Speak louder, build stronger, not because it's easy, but because your destiny demands it. This is how mountains are moved, not with machines, but with mindset. Do you think the Wright brothers had data and algorithms telling them how to conquer the sky? No, they had vision, they had failure, they had scraped knees and cracked wings, and still they kept going. Why? Because faith had already seen the flight before the first takeoff, and that's what you must do. See it before you see it. Talk to your dream like it already knows your name. Walk into your day like destiny has already signed the contract. Let others wait for signs. You be the sign. Let others complain about conditions. You create them, let others follow the path, you become the path, and when people ask how you kept going when nothing made sense, tell them the truth. Tell them you saw it before they could. Tell them faith is not a feeling, it's a force. A force that turns invisible visions into undeniable realities, that lifts average men above the clouds, that gives the underdog a crown, that makes the impossible inevitable. You want to know how the future is shaped. By the man or woman who dares to say, "This is who I am, this is what I believe, and nothing can stop me." Because that sentence, spoken from a place of unshakable belief, echoes through time. It shapes generations. It shifts reality, and if you speak it from the depths of your soul, not just once, but daily, fiercely, with every breath, you will become the architect of your own destiny. This is not fantasy, this is not hope. This is law. You are not at the mercy of fate. You are not waiting for life to hand you purpose. You are the one who decides. You are the builder. You are the creator. You are the bridge, and faith is the fire that keeps you walking when the world says stop. You must understand the greatest things ever built were not constructed by hands first. They were constructed by belief. Skyscrapers were once sketches. Empires were once whispers. Every revolutionary idea was once a quiet defiance in someone's soul saying, "This isn't all there is." And that defiance, that holy rebellion against mediocrity, that was faith. In motion, faith is not passive. It is not sitting in silence hoping for light to find you. Faith is active. Faith hunts. It breaks the silence with movement. It turns waiting rooms into workshops. It doesn't ask, "Is it possible?" It declares, "I'll make it possible." And yet so many stand on the edge of their dream with paralyzed feet and trembling hands, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for the money, the support, the permission. But destiny doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards the bold, the builders, the ones who step before the staircase appears. This is where most give up between desire and devotion. They want the mountaintop, but they are afraid to climb in the dark. They want the breakthrough, but they won't break away from the comfort that's killing them. Let me be clear, you can't be both safe and legendary. You can't play it small and expect the world to feel your roar. The giants of history were giants not because they never fell, but because they got up while others accepted defeat. They stared loss in the eyes and said, "This does not define me. I define me." When Henry Ford dreamed of a vehicle affordable for the masses, the world laughed. When Carnegie envisioned building bridges with steel instead of wood, they mocked him. When Martin Luther King Jr. said, "I have a dream," he wasn't speaking from sight. He was speaking from faith. And now, it's your turn. This world you see, it's flexible. It will bend, but only for the one who believes with enough heat to melt resistance. That heat is forged in silence. It is born in solitude. It is grown in the dark where there's no applause, no praise, no spotlight. Only your voice whispering, "Keep going, keep building, keep believing." Every day you wake up, you're building something. The question is, are you building excuses? Or are you building a life worth remembering? Are you strengthening your doubts or your dreams? Are you investing in your fears? Or are you compounding your courage? Listen, the world will test you. It will push against you. It will try to drown your fire in distractions, in delays, in detours. But if you are anchored in faith, you become immovable. You become the storm, not one that destroys, but one that awakens. Faith gives you clarity when the path is blurred. It gives you voice when silence screams louder. It gives you identity when the world wants you to blend in, to stay quiet, to be just another carbon copy in a sea of forgettable souls. But you were not born to be forgettable. You were not born to survive. You were born to create, to speak your truth with fire in your lungs and vision in your eyes, to turn pain into purpose, to bend the world with your will. And it starts, not with strategy, but with certainty, the kind of certainty that doesn't need to see the proof to start the process, the kind of certainty that turns one day into day one, so say it. Right now, with your chest out and your soul lit up, I will not wait to become what I already am. I am the dream in motion. I am the vision in flesh. I am the bridge between my desire and my destiny. Say it again. Not for motivation, but for activation. Because the more you speak it, the more you become it. And the more you become it, the more the world has no choice but to respond. Doors will open because you no longer knock with hesitation, you kick them down with belief. People will follow because you no longer whisper, you declare. And opportunities will rise, not because they were suddenly created, but because you finally had the eyes to see them. And that's what faith really is, its vision beyond vision. It's seeing with your spirit what your eyes have not yet witnessed. It's trusting that what you are building, brick by invisible brick, will one day stand tall and undeniable, because you never stopped laying the foundation when the world saw nothing. They may not believe in you. That's fine. Your job was never to convince them. Your job was to convict yourself. And once you're convicted, nothing can stop you. Not rejection, not silence, not failure. Not time, because faith doesn't expire. It expands. The longer you hold it, the stronger it grows. The more you invest in it, the more it multiplies. And soon the world that once doubted you begins to orbit you, not because you begged it to, but because you became gravitational. Faith pulls your future to you, but only if you move like it's already yours. Speak like the victory is already etched into the stone of history. Walk like your shadow stretches into tomorrow's greatness. Because that's what separates the extraordinary from the average, the ability to act from faith, not fear. And fear, it's a liar dressed in logic. It sounds reasonable. It says, wait a little longer, gather more information, and make sure it's safe. But what it's really doing is chaining you to a version of yourself that doesn't even exist anymore. You have outgrown that old version. You've evolved. The question is, have your actions, because your dream is not waiting on the economy. It's not waiting on your family's approval. It's not waiting on better timing or more connections. It's waiting on you to walk into the room like you own it, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment with your calling. The great ones never waited for conditions to be perfect. They moved anyway. Abraham Lincoln led a divided nation in its darkest hour, not because he had all the answers, but because he had an unwavering faith that truth, freedom, and unity were worth fighting for. He had every reason to give in, but he didn't. Why? Because faith doesn't negotiate with fear. It overrides it. You cannot rise while arguing for your limitations. You cannot fly while clinging to the weight of your excuses. You cannot lead while seeking validation from the very crowd you were born to stand apart from. This world will try to clip your wings and call it wisdom, but let me tell you something. Playing small is not humility. It's betrayal, a betrayal of your gift, your voice, your purpose. So stop apologizing for your fire. You were not meant to dim yourself into other people's comfort zones. You were meant to burn so brightly that those still hiding in the dark are forced to choose, rise, or retreat. And if they retreat, let them. You're not here to drag people to their destiny. You're here to become the example that makes them want to follow. That is the essence of faith in action, to be the proof before the proof exists. to build the bridge in real time, foot by trembling foot, across a canyon no one else believes is crossable. But when you get to the other side, and you will, the very people who doubted you will ask how you did it. And you'll say one word: faith, not the kind found in quotes and cliches, the kind forged in silence, in pain, in failure, in obsession. You'll tell them that every time the world said stop, your heart whispered, not yet. You'll tell them that every time the lights went out, you became the light. You'll tell them that every door slammed in your face only made your knock louder, because you were never waiting for permission. You were the permission. Understand this: the universe doesn't reward effort alone. It rewards alignment. When your thoughts, actions, and beliefs all scream the same message, I will not be denied, that's when the ground shifts beneath you. That's when the tide turns. But if your thoughts are filled with fear and your actions are hesitant, your results will always reflect confusion. Clarity doesn't come from overthinking. It comes from movement. When Thomas Edison failed over 10,000 times to create the light bulb, the world called him insane. But what they missed is that Edison wasn't just experimenting with wires, he was exercising faith. Faith that the impossible only remains so until someone refuses to accept it. And when he succeeded, the world changed, not because of electricity, because of belief. Now imagine, what if the idea burning inside you is just as powerful? What if the dream you carry could alter the course of generations? What if the world is waiting for you the way it once waited for Edison, Ford, Disney, Mandela? The question isn't whether you're capable. The question is whether you'll commit, because dreams without discipline are hallucination. And vision without action is just fantasy. Faith without work is dead. But when you marry the two, faith and grind, you become unstoppable. You become a force of nature. You become the storm and the calm. You become the person who changes the rules not by asking, but by becoming the exception. And that's what this is really about. Not waiting for the miracle, becoming the miracle. Not hoping someone else builds the bridge. Laying it yourself, one stone of belief at a time, because if you won't believe in your vision, why should anyone else? If you won't fight for your future, who will? You must walk into every moment knowing that you are not asking life to bless you, you are meeting life on your terms, with the full weight of your belief behind you. That is what bends reality. That is what builds empires. That is what makes history. Faith is the bridge, but you are the builder. You are the one who must pick up the hammer when the crowd disappears. You are the one who must keep going when applause turns to silence. You are the one who must hold the vision when the world goes blind, and when that moment comes when doubt creeps in and everything inside screams to quit, you will not, because you have burned the boats. Because you have declared with your soul, there is no going back, only forward, only through, only up. Every empire that ever rose from dust to dominance was built on the bones of uncertainty. But here's the truth they won't tell you. Greatness is not reserved for the chosen few, it's unlocked by those who choose themselves when no one else will. And faith, real faith, is not passive. It is not soft, poetic, or delicate. It is war. It is the daily decision to believe in what your eyes can't see and your hands can't yet touch. It is the refusal to bow before circumstance. It is the courage to plant your flag in the soil of a dream and declare, this land is mine, long before anyone else sees the territory. This world doesn't need more wishers. It needs more warriors of belief. It needs people willing to endure ridicule, rejection, and silence and still keep showing up. It needs visionaries like Henry Ford, who dared to imagine a future where the working class could afford the very machines they built. They laughed at him, they mocked the idea, but faith doesn't flinch at mockery, it answers with results. And Ford delivered. He revolutionized an entire industry because he had the audacity to believe it could be different. You think you need more resources? No, you need more resourcefulness. You need to see that everything you lack is a test, a mirror showing you whether your conviction is made of steel or sand. And when you pass that test, when you rise up in defiance of not enough, something strange begins to happen, doors open. People appear, opportunities align, not because they came out of nowhere, but because you shifted into alignment. You didn't wait for faith to feel easy. You moved while your legs shook. You didn't wait for certainty. You declared certainty with your actions. That's what makes you dangerous in the best possible way, not reckless, relentless, and that is what the world respects, because deep down, people are not inspired by perfection. They are inspired by conviction, by the man or woman who walks into a storm and says, "Let it rage, I will not be moved." That kind of presence is rare. That kind of power is earned. It is the byproduct of daily, deliberate, unshakable faith in who you are becoming. Faith that doesn't fade when life delays you. Faith that doesn't break when life tests you. Faith that doesn't disappear just because the plan didn't go according to schedule. Let me tell you something. Your vision is bigger than the detour. Your calling is deeper than the setback. The delay is not denial. It is preparation. It is the universe clearing the runway for your takeoff, making sure that when you rise for real. Because the truth is, the greatest threats to your destiny will never be outside of you. They will be the doubts you entertain, the distractions you justify, the excuses you disguise as strategy. That's where the real war is waged, not in the market, not in your bank account, in your mind. Win there and you win everywhere, but that victory is not handed to you. It's claimed with grit, grace, and the kind of belief that doesn't ask if it's possible, but asks how far can I take this? You have that power, you have that choice right now to stop second, guessing your greatness, to stop dimming your ambition to fit the comfort of others, to stop outsourcing your belief to external validation. This is your mountain, this is your moment. This is the season where you finally stop rehearsing limitations and start living liberation. The chains were never real, they were conditioned, they were inherited. They were given to you by people who were afraid of their own light. But you were never meant to stay in the cage. You were built for the open skies, built for altitude, built to stretch past logic, past fear, past the gravitational pull of mediocrity and touch something divine. So what if they don't understand you? So what if they call you crazy? Every revolutionary was labeled insane before history called them genius. Walt Disney was fired for lacking imagination. The Beatles were told guitar music was on the way out. Oprah was told she wasn't fit for television, but faith doesn't need permission. Faith creates its own lane. And when you lead with that kind of belief, when you move from that place of fire, you become a disruptor of destiny, not because you're trying to impress, but because you refuse to suppress. You refuse to suppress the vision. You refuse to suppress your greatness. You refuse to suppress your voice. And in doing so, you don't just cross the bridge between dreams and reality, you become it. You become the living proof that it's possible. You become the light that shows others the path. You become the storm that clears the old and makes room for the new. So ask yourself, once and for all, what would your life look like if you stopped playing scared? What would your life become if you stopped waiting for the stars to align and started aligning yourself with the stars? What would happen if today you chose to go all in, not halfway, not when the time is right, but right now? Because the time will never feel perfect, but your decision can be. And when that decision is backed by faith, not the soft Sunday morning kind, but the hard Monday morning kind, the kind that shows up when you're tired, the kind that shows up when you've failed, the kind that shows up when no one is watching, no one is clapping, and nothing seems to be working, that's when faith becomes your weapon. That's when you stop hoping and start declaring. That's when the game changes, because faith is not weak, faith is not passive, faith is ferocious.